Hello, 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 everyone. This is Linda G. Robert, your back in the groove again coach and travel coach. You know, I love traveling and I believe in the transformative nature of traveling. And so does my guest, Jessica. So here's a little bit about Jessica. Jessica Cumming is a seasoned success strategist with over 20 years of experience in the tech industry. She has led global teams, trained hundreds of professionals, and helped individuals navigate career transitions with confidence. Passionate about empowering others, Jessica specializes in guiding clients through challenging times such as layoffs, promotions, and balancing full time careers and caregiving. She's the founder of JC New Beginnings, where she supports women in their 30s to 50s who are looking to redefine their career paths and create lasting legacies. Jessica's approach combines practical strategies with resilience building tools, helping clients find their next opportunity and successfully balance personal and professional responsibilities, whether through coaching, mentorship, or upcoming podcast. We'll find out more about that in just a few minutes. Jessica empowers women to show up unapologetically, take risks, and build the future that they deserve. Her mission is to help others unlock their potential, create a clear path forward, and embrace new beginnings with confidence. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Linda. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so happy that we made it here as well.
Where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Absolutely. So listen, there's so many things to talk about. I know the first time we met, we talked about traveling. And we'll talk a little bit about that after. But I want to hear about your upcoming podcast, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, sure. So it's actually ironic because I had gone ahead and scripted my first few episodes, and then I had a conversation with someone, and they were like, maybe you should pivot. Not
Oh,
completely, just a little
oh,
sidestep. I was going to look at focusing on the things that people need and want to learn when they're laid off.
yeah,
Um, but instead, I'm going to start with a different career transition, which is the people that are currently in jobs and they're looking to move to a different role.
yeah.
They said that 2024, they are seeing more people that are looking to move into a new role than ever before.
Why is that?
Um, so especially in the white collar industry, what we've seen are massive layoffs. Tech is one of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't foresee that going anywhere or changing in 2025, unfortunately. And I just wrote this as part of a LinkedIn article yesterday, but what we're
Mm,
seeing is that specifically in tech, you're seeing massive layoffs because they're having to catch up and look at reassessing their funds and putting them towards AI investments.
well, I was going to ask if AI affecting industry. Hello, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's
man.
part of it.
Right.
But here's the good news is that, and I will be talking about this in the first few episodes, is, specifically about AI. How can you use it?
Yeah,
How can you get comfortable and more familiar with it? Because a lot of people are scared of it. But
yeah,
the reality is it's here to stay.
yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah,
look at the first laptop, look at the first smartphone,
yeah,
even looking at the internet, right? These are all things that people were afraid of.
yeah.
And the reality is again, it's not going anywhere. You have to learn how to use
Yeah.
it safely. And this is one of the things that I often say, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And if you're targeting people that are working but want to change careers, they have to kind of figure out, maybe with your guidance, of what not to get into, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
what's viable.
Yeah. And that's part of what I'm working on right now, not only with the podcast, but also with the course that I'm putting together
Mm,
is what what can you do? Where do
Yeah,
you start? As far as networking, as far as understanding what skills you need, what skills you have, what's transferable,
exactly.
especially if you're looking at a completely different industry,
Yes.
and then there's imposter syndrome that
Yes.
sets in. So these are all things that I'll be covering.
Wow, that's
I
exciting.
know, it's very exciting. So I don't have the official launch date yet, but my goal is to have at least my first one up and running by the end of January. I know it's a little bit of a long time frame, but we got some holidays coming up.
Well,
I
and there's a
know.
lot to learn too, right? When you've got a podcast.
Yeah, there is. I'm fortunate in the fact that I did go to school for film and television, but it's been
Oh,
a few years since I've graduated. If you can't tell, I have some gray hairs here. So
yeah,
it has, so it's been a while, but
I
no, there
I
is a
hear you.
learning curve. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so the end of January is when I'm looking at launching the first one. I will come back and let you know. What I can tell you for sure is that in the name you will hear the word unapologetically,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
even as you said right in my bio, I'm all about living life unapologetically.
Yeah.
You show up as you, I show up as me,
Yeah.
and that's one of the core principles of my foundation is unapologetically be you.
And it
So
is a hard word to say, isn't it?
it is. Try saying it fast 3 times.
But I love it. I love it because we have to be ourselves. So I kind of want to start going towards the talking about traveling. You told me before you've had a lot of opportunities to do that. So let's talk about some of those opportunities and when or why you had to travel.
Yeah. So yes, I have done extensive travel, probably not as much as some, but extensive for me, and especially looking at my family. My first international experience for travel was when I was in second grade.
Oh my goodness.
And I know.
Wow.
And that was because my family had an exchange student when I was 2 years old.
Oh,
And so he became my big brother, and we were fortunate enough to go visit him in Sweden, which is his home country. So that's what started it. And it was a whole new world, right? And this was back before the internet. This was back before cell phones. I mean, you were doing everything in
wow.
real time. I
Right.
know. So, but it
Seems
was
like a
that,
long time ago.
like I said, I have the gray hairs. But that experience taught me things that I wouldn't have necessarily learned growing up in central Wisconsin. Um, I learned how to navigate a subway system,
Yeah.
and that was my first experience doing that. And then when we went back a few years later, I was doing it on my own. I was able
Yeah.
to ride all of the public transit and understand where I was going. And so directionally, it enhanced my abilities. Um, Culturally, obviously, I got to visit old castles and just even different restaurants or different signage, right? These are all things that when you get these experiences, they not only change you, but they shape your future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about that because you said it shapes your future.
Mhm.
In my case, when I walked the Camino last year at 65, it shaped my future.
Yes. Yes.
So, it really did. So how did it shape your future? Or how does it
So
continue to shape your,
yeah, for sure. Continues every day. I get that travel itch, but it shaped my future because with the having the exchange student plus going to his home country to visit him, it was at that point in time I said that's what I want to do. When I get to the age where I can do it, I want to be an exchange student. And I looked at going to Sweden because that's where he was from, and that was my
right?
big brother,
Yeah.
right? And then my mom sat me down. She's like, "Why don't you try to go somewhere else? You've been to Sweden, you've been there a few times, experience something else."
Mm,
So I did. And I ended up going and spending a transformative year in Australia.
Australia. Well,
Australia.
thank goodness your mom said, hey, try something else.
Yeah. Yes,
I mean,
very thankful for that.
yeah.
And I gained a whole new set of family and friends that I'm still in contact with to this day. And it's this year is 25 years since I lived there.
Okay, so
Uh,
Australia is an English-speaking country. How different is
yes,
it?
it's still different.
Is it? Because come on, you're American, I'm Canadian. We speak English. How different can it actually be?
It is different. Just the different things that they say. I mean, I don't
Oh,
fair dinkum, right?
what?
Whoever here exactly.
What?
Um, exactly. It's still English, but you have your different words that you hear. Bugger. That's another one. Oh, that's a bugger. So even though it's English, you still know that you're somewhere else.
Right.
And it's for me when I start hearing those things, it brings me back
Oh,
to a place of nostalgia. Um, but it also brings me back to a place of gratitude
oh,
because I know what's being said. I understand, and not everyone does.
right. That's true.
Yep.
I'm not sure what bugger means, but I can imagine. But
Yeah, I mean, it's just, oh, bugger, oh, darn, but it's again, it's different. And in
right.
there, right, when you want to talk about different, I just saw a picture from my host mom, and I still call her my host mom or mom
Oh,
today. And I just saw a picture. There was some some kangaroos laying in the front yard. If you're not from there, it's not something you see every day.
no.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
So, would you say that this is something I learned a little while ago. Did you leave a bit of your heart there, or did you bring a piece of that with you when you left? Just curious.
I
Which way
would
you
like
look
to
at it.
say that it's a even swap.
Oh, okay. Mm,
Every single time I leave there, I leave a bit of me, and every time I come back, I take a little bit more with
right.
me as well. And I've said that. I have said that in Facebook posts in regards to some of my previous travels. Every time, it's a little bit harder to leave.
Yeah.
But it's a place of nostalgia as well. And it's yeah, I have to say that about every place that I've traveled to. um I I've been to a couple of different places in India, and I would always
Okay.
be asked, what's your favorite? Of
Right.
all, do you like Hyderabad or do you like Bangalore better? And I'm like, I like them both. They both have very special and unique people in them, but there's also very neat things to do that I got to experience in both places. But yeah, I've had that question asked of me numerous times, and I can't pick just one location.
Right. So, what did you enjoy about India? I'm curious about that.
The food. uh, I so that the food is amazing, and it's people love
Mm.
it or hate it, but I do. And the people, right? I mean, it's one of those things where my longest trip there was 8 weeks.
Mm.
And yeah, so I really got to spend some quality time, and I have genuine friends there. And we still have a WhatsApp group, and we text, and we check in with one another, and we don't all work together anymore, but we have built that friendship that has lasted for, gosh, almost 10 years now.
Wow, they're very giving, aren't they? I've noticed. I have
Yeah.
a few friends that are from India, not that live there now.
Hmm.
Very, very given, very
Yes.
caring.
Very caring, very
Yeah.
generous, very loving. I cannot say enough great things. And they were very protective of me as well.
Mm.
I was the minority.
Right, right. Yeah.
And, they would tell me, if you need to go out at night, call one of us, we'll go with you. Just to be safe, right? There's always safety in numbers.
Yeah.
Or if you need to go somewhere, don't take a cab, we'll come get you. Just very protective.
Yeah.
I mean, and I would ride on rickshaws and things like that. But I do remember I was going, I went to go cook dinner one night for them. And one of the guys was like, well, I'll pick you up. I'll just need to get a car. I said, don't worry about it. I said, I can go on the back of a motorcycle. It's fine. What? Fine. It's fine. I'll do it.
Did you?
I did. I did. I've done it a couple of times. So yes. Um, and that was before they put the law into place that you had to wear a helmet.
Okay.
So, no, with that being said, I do actually have my my motorcycle license, Class M motorcycle license. So I knew a little bit of what to expect. But when you're in 3 lanes, but 5 car lengths of traffic and you're on a
Right.
motorcycle kind of going through, it is a little bit of a different experience. If you can ride
Really?
or drive there, yes, for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was the one thing that I will say, regardless of where I travel, and I didn't know this the first time that I traveled to India. And so, but you have to be willing to learn. You have to be safe, but you have to be willing to learn and experience new things and not live in fear.
I think this is bottom line where
Mhm.
wherever you go in the world that might
Yes.
seem a little bit foreign, you have to have that willingness, that openness to try something different. Because
Mhm.
if you don't, it's going to be like, I hated my trip, I didn't like it, experience more culture shock, and so on. You have to have that openness for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, and I didn't have that the first time I went to India because I was told, "Be careful, don't go out from the hotel, don't go anywhere, don't do anything." And so I did. I basically lived in fear um, for 4 weeks,
right.
and again, that was a different trip. And then my second trip, I was like, I'm not going to do that. I have this whole place to discover, and it's just about being smart,
Yes.
but you have to be open. And I'm so thankful that I did open my eyes and make friends, right? I mean, I was fortunate that I was able to make friends and they helped me too. But yeah, you have to be open to discover
Yeah.
and just be safe.
Yeah. That reminds me of the very first time I went to Mexico, the very, very first time, this was in the early 90s. I didn't like my experience at all. And I think it's because I had never been to a different country before. That was my very first time being in a different country, and I didn't like it. And then fast forward to in 2020, of course, much wiser and more mature. It was a completely different experience, and I spent my last 4 winters there. Not this year. I'm not sure about this year yet, but I did, and it was a whole different experience. I think maturity helped too, but my openness to try that again, to go back to that country that I experienced many years ago, that openness to try it again, right? Have
Yeah.
you have you been, well, you talked about India where you had been there before, but you were
Mhm.
willing to try it again. Why did you go back one more time?
So
And
that
if you
was for work. I've actually been there 4 times.
okay, okay.
Yeah, so I've been there 4 times,
Mhm.
and I still welcomed the opportunity. I knew it was a different city, but I've
Mm,
I've gone back to the city that I didn't explore the first time and have explored it more. But so yes, it was work that took me there, and so um, it really, for me, I will always jump at the opportunity to be able to travel.
yeah.
It's ironic though, the first time I was asked to go to India, I did not go. When I was going for work, I ended up not going and then ended up going to the Philippines instead. For work still,
Okay,
but
so we'll talk about that in a second then.
yeah, but the reason I turned it down is because I had just been traveling quite a bit, and so I was like, I'm not gonna go. I'm just gonna I'm gonna let this one pass me by. And then it just so happened that I really needed to go to the Philippines just because of some things that had transpired with work, and it was the right thing to do. So yeah, I never turned down the opportunity to travel, and I think that that's part of what has made me continuously open up and continuously broaden my horizons because I know people personally that have never been outside of the state that they're in,
Sure. Yeah.
never been outside the country. um, I know people that have never been on a plane.
Yes.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
But for me, I like to immerse myself in something to learn it.
Yeah.
And I don't want someone else's experience. I want my own.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's why I do it.
Yeah. A couple of things come up is the fact that some people, some women, because I work primarily with women, might be afraid to travel or experience something different. That fear of even traveling on an airplane might be something very real for some individuals. Let's talk about the Philippines then.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. I was young. I was um gosh, I was probably 24 at the time. And I was there for, I believe, 2 weeks. And I remember it really helped mold my future of being okay traveling.
Right,
And I say that because I remember walking out of the hotel and, or actually getting to the hotel in the hotel car, and you get through the gate because it's gated, and all of a sudden I see them walking around, and I didn't know what it was, and so I was meeting a friend of mine there, and I said to her, I said, because when we walked out, I saw them doing it to another car. I said, Victoria, so what are they doing? And she said, that's the mirror. They're checking for bombs underneath the car. And
deep breath, deep breath.
at that point, I could have freaked out. But the reality was is that there had been a bombing in Manila,
Mm,
at the mall not too long before that trip.
right.
And so obviously, you're going to take these precautions. And you have these guards and they're checking for bombs and they have machine guns over them, and you have two options at that point. You can freak out, or you can look at the positive side that there's people that are put in this position to keep you protected.
Thank you. Right. Thank
Yep,
you. That gratitude that they're actually caring enough to check.
exactly. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So I want to go back to a little bit of your new projects, and I'm wondering how this experience really is going to be helpful with you working with your new clientele. It's got to be
Yeah,
helpful.
of course. uh, One thing that you learn is that regardless of which country you're in, a lot of women are seeing some of the same struggles.
For sure.
I'm not going to say all of them, and I'm not going to say that they experience them equally because I would be lying.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is that the friends that I've made along the way, to see the struggles that they have gone through of not being able to leave work at night with their husbands because of a safety issue,
Right.
right? They have to wait, and even if they're done with their shift early, they have to sit there and wait.
Mm.
That's something we don't have to deal with in the US
Yeah.
or in Canada.
No, we
But
don't.
that's a reality in other countries. Women being passed over for promotions
Right.
simply because they're women,
Yes.
and I know those women. Um,
Yeah.
or women being told that they're too good to be promoted,
Mm.
right? So these travels and these stories and these friendships have allowed me to broaden what I'm looking at for not only interviews of people and topics that I want to discuss, but then
Right.
it gives me a different perspective of helping them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. And if you hadn't traveled to all those places, how do you think that would affect who you are as an individual?
I'd have those same blinders that so many other people have, right? I mean, you can only see what you're willing to see.
Yeah.
And if you're only willing to look here and not pay attention to what's surrounding you, you're missing out.
Yeah. You know, I walked two caminos now, and one of them was 30 plus days, and the other one was 14 days. And I somehow now believe that the longer we spend somewhere, and of course, different experience different things, that the more of an impact it's going to have. However, we can't all travel for 30 days or more. Some of us need to just go for a week. Now, there were people that traveled for a week, that walked only for a week because that was their holidays. So, do you think that we need to have a certain amount of time to take holidays for a certain amount of time in order to experience change of some sort? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a tricky question for me.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky question for me because I once had a 20-hour layover in Paris.
Okay.
That 20 hours changed me.
Okay.
In that 20 hours, I was able to see the Eiffel Tower light up at night on the hour.
Wait a minute. Okay, keep going.
Also, during that 20 hours, I was able to see the Cathedral of Notre Dame before the fire.
Oh,
And I get chills talking about it. I did not have time to go in, but I had the experience to at least go past the Louvre and get some pictures there. I still got to experience the food, the culture, right? The people. And I got to let myself be free.
right. You mean you decided to venture out, not stay at the airport for those 20 hours?
No. That is my number one, and that's actually, I'm so glad you said those specific words. Because the other reason that I say it's such a tricky question for me is that earlier this year I had a very unique opportunity to go to Europe. And again, I mean, I've been to Europe before, but this particular trip I did four countries in, wait, 5 countries in 4 days. I did Amsterdam.
Come on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But some of it was only a little bit of time,
Okay.
but I still did it. I had a 6 hour layover in Amsterdam, and I, instead of staying in the airport, I checked my backpack into a locker. I figured out exactly, and I did some planning ahead of time, right? Figured out, how to get down to Anne Frank's house and how to get down to the red light district, all these different, because I mean, the
The
red
red
light,
light
like,
district too?
it's iconic. It's iconic. But but and really honestly, that's pretty much, I mean, I just kind of walked around down there and took some pictures. But you know, I plan, well, not those type of pictures, don't worry.
That's okay.
But I had never been to Amsterdam before.
Right,
And so this was my opportunity and I wasn't going to waste it.
right.
So I did Amsterdam. I took the train straight from the airport, went down there, spent 4 hours in town, came back, got on a plane, flew to Czech Republic. I spent a night in Czech Republic. Then I went to, and I guess it was 4 countries in 5 days. That's what it was. I did Czech Republic.
Hmm.
I did Austria and I did Slovakia.
Oh, yes, I've been to Slovakia too.
Yep.
Mhm.
And then I
Crazy.
took the train back up to Prague, Czech Republic, and then flew home. So I really had 24 hours, maybe 48 if I was lucky, in each country at max.
Right.
Anywhere from 4 to 48 hours. But it's not, if I could have done it different, I probably would. I would
Sure.
spend some more time in some places, maybe a little bit less, or not go back to other places, but I can say I did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have really neat memories from everyone. So to answer your question,
Yeah,
everyone would love a 30-day holiday,
right.
right? Um, but it's the impact that you're willing to the impact that you're wanting to get from it, and where, I said this at the beginning as we joked about some of the tech issues, where there's a will, there's a way. You're going to make it
Uh,
happen.
for sure. And I'm curious, could you have done that when you were younger? Would you have been willing to do that when you were younger?
I don't That's a great question. Could I? Yes.
Wait, I want to rephrase that to not younger, but inexperienced as a
Mm,
traveler, okay? Instead of
mm.
age, because it's not so much the age thing. Or
Yeah.
maybe it could be too, but
Well, I think it's the specific countries that I went to this trip. I I would have been safe going. I would have, I mean, it's you're looking at some of the safer countries. Um, but I went to those specific countries, number one, because I had a friend of mine that was working in Czech Republic.
mm,
He was there for work and said, "Hey, so that's why that trip started."
yeah,
And then it was my idea from there to say, "I'm here."
yeah,
I mean, it's the train, 4 or 5 hours. Why not explore? So I don't know if I would have necessarily had, and I'm just kind of thinking back to when I was younger, right? We didn't have the resources, but I think kids these days have more of the resources, the internet, the phones, right? They're able to get around better. So I don't know if my younger self would have been able to, but I think that this younger generation does have some of that. And
yeah.
that's one thing about Europe is they encourage a a leap year, a
Oh,
skip
right, a
year.
gap year, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, gap year. That's the word I was
Hmm.
thinking. In Australia too, they
Mm,
encourage their kids to go travel, experience.
yeah,
And I
no,
think that that's healthy.
yeah,
I think that it's amazing experience because, a lot of Americans and Canadians as well, right? It's, oh, you get out of school, you work, you do this, and then all of a sudden you retire. Well, by then, do you want to do the same traveling that you could have when you were physically able to?
yeah. No,
And I've had this conversation with my dad.
yeah,
My dad is 72 and he's like, "Well, I just don't understand why you have to do this now. Why don't you wait 20 years?" I said, "Well, what if I can't walk, God forbid, in 20 years?"
yeah.
Well, you don't want to think negative. No, I'm not thinking negative. But if I have the opportunity to do it now,
Now,
why
yes,
should I put it off? Yep.
absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
this is a huge thing is why put off to later something you can do now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a couple of things before we, close off our call. I want people to know more about your business, your new
Yes.
projects. How are we going to find out more?
Yes, and I love this because you're holding me accountable. And honestly, that's what I need with the holidays and just everything else going on. It's like the months just kind of go quickly, very quickly. So my website is JC New Beginnings, and you can find me on there. I am in the process, as I mentioned, putting together a course for those that are looking at moving into a different career. So that will be on my website when I get it up as well.
Sure.
And then the podcasts, I'll have the links to there. They can go to my website now and sign up for the mailing. You just join, and that way they can get updates for the business. And if anyone is interested in working with me or learning more, they can go directly to the website as well, and they can book a discovery call with me and see how we can network and work together,
Right.
see if we're a fit, right? Because not everyone fits, but if I'm not the right fit, maybe I know someone that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you on LinkedIn as well?
I am. I was just about to say that, and then and it slipped my mind. So yes, I am on LinkedIn,
Perfect.
Jessica Cumming, and you can go ahead and find me on there. I think it's Jessica Cumming 04, if I'm not mistaken, because I
We'll
didn't
find it.
didn't realize there was that many Jessica Cummings in the world, but apparently there's more than just me. So yeah, it's Jessica Cumming 04. I will tell you the one common mistake is that people like to put an S at the end of my last name.
Oh,
And there is not one. So that is one thing that I will go ahead and make sure to call out. And then I also do speaking engagements, and that's what made me think of it because I'm speaking next week to the Women in
Oh,
Technology for the
oh,
Houston chapter. And when they sent out the announcement, they accidentally included in us. So it was
oh.
quickly removed, but yeah, it just makes people hard to find if it's not spelled correctly.
I hear you. And one of the reasons I have Linda G. Robert is because there are a lot of Linda Robert, and it's Robert.
Mm, yes. You know exactly what I'm talking
I know
about.
exactly what you're talking about. Exactly. All right. Thank you. Thank you for being you, for telling us all about your different experiences and about your new projects. I'm going to be, I was going to say, I was going to stop here.
Well, before you do that,
Might have to
thank you.
edit that part out, but
That's all right. Well, thank you so much, Linda, for having me. I really appreciate getting this time to chat with you and allowing me to share my story and love of travel. And, it's if I can say one more thing, it is, this is one of the other things that I say besides being unapologetically you is it's my slogan is embrace change and succeed.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
just, and every single thing that you do is a chance to embrace change,
Yeah.
but you have to be willing to embrace it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Good place to end. And that's a cut.
All right.
So we ended the